see that our colleagues only have two campaign messages. The first message is going to be around the body and the death of President ECL. They want to use the death and the unburied body of our former president to push their political agenda and gain the sympathy to win an election. For the first time, we are seeing the spirit of the dead being exalted above those who are alive. Never in the history of our campaign have we seen a political party use t-shirts and portraits of a dead person. That never in our history has this ever happened. I have not seen the UNIP using Kenneth Kaunda's because President Kaunda is dead. I have not seen MMD using President Chuluba's face today because President Chuluba is dead. I have not seen UPND using Anderson Mazoka's picture to campaign because Anderson is dead. You want to stand for president, give us your face, give us your name, give us your agenda. Don't use the dead. This is an emotional period when campaigns take away reason sometimes and whip people into a sensational, emotional roller coaster where people are not able to think clearly and make important and distinguished decisions. And I think that our continued conversation with the nation will try to lower the temperature of lies and abuse of the Zambian people by, whipping them into a frenzy that will make them vote in a wrong way, only to realize after they have voted that they did a disservice to themselves. I want to repeat that in the coming election, although I'm not running for office, I have been called to my country since I was a young man of 17 years old. I've carried the vision of Zambia shall be saved. I talk about the welfare of my country. I preach the gospel of Jesus Christ to thousands upon thousands and millions of our people over the past 48 years of ministry. So my heart is intertwined with the destiny of my nation. Whether I'm in office, political office, or I'm outside political office, my heart throbs for a better Zambia. And you Zambians that have walked with me, you know that is the truth. When I say Zambia shall be saved, I become about the only political leader with a theme that has carried me for so many, many years. And that will not change as long as God gives me breath. Today, I want to deal with a number of issues. Although we have multiplied number of presidential candidates, this election that is coming ahead of us will basically be divided between two groups. The first one is going to be the UPND alliance, the party in government. And the other side is going to be honest, it's going to be the former Patriotic Front alliance. It could be called anything after that, but in reality, these are fragments or fragmentations of the PF that are being assembled together under different names and under different symbols to represent the other side. But basically, we are going to have only two sides, the UPND alliance and the former PF alliance. And I believe it is important for us to realize some of us, our vision is to bring Zambia to a place where she can become a leading example of what an election should look like. An election that is based on real issues that affect the Zambian people. Issues that are meant to improve the quality of life of every Zambian, and not the insulting campaigns, not the disrespectful campaigns, not the cheating campaigns. As a Christian nation, there is a call and a demand on us to live up to our declaration that we have chosen to be a nation under God. And we cannot be hypocrites just because it's an election. Let's be sincere. If we want to campaign, let's bring issues on the table. And let's not bring personalities. Let's not do things that are going to take away from who we are, an example nation on the continent of Africa. In this election, we see the UPND alliance fronting the many achievements that they have achieved over the past 4 or 5 years. And that is as it should be. We see the UPND Alliance going on to talk about the free education, to talk about the increased CDF, to talk about how they have managed to restructure the debt and start to see the economy rising with inflation going into a single digit of 6.7%, and also having foreign reserves come to its highest number ever since independence of 5.5%, $5.5 billion, something we have not had before. Seeing that we are now having like going towards 5 million tons of maize that we are producing. We are at a place of great growth. And therefore, the UPND Alliance has got a story, an amazing story to sell to the Zambian people. I think, having been in government before under my own party, the MMD, I know how difficult it is to face a campaign and talk about your record, especially for the party in government. It's usually easier for those that are in the opposition to whip up a story because they don't have to prove anything. They don't have to convince Zambians about anything. They just need to promise them and titter on their fears and their vulnerability and the pain they're facing, which is temporal. They are going to build a story about those issues that affect the Zambian people in the moment. But it does not mean they're sincere. It does not mean they are going to do what they are promising. It does not even mean they fear God or even Zambians. They just want to win the election. But this UPND Alliance has a true story of taking a country that was almost destroyed economically, starting to miss its commitments on the international stage of paying back our debt. Humiliated. Our money was losing value. Our foreign reserves had fallen to the lowest. The inflation had gone up on two digits. And we noticed that it was an economy that had ruptured. And this government, under President Hakainde Hichilema, has worked so hard to try to rebuild the economy brick by brick, step by step. But as we look back now, Zambia becomes a country that many countries around the world would like to do business with. So I've said all this to say to my colleagues and friends and partners in the UPND Alliance, we have a great story to tell. All that remains is to tell it to the Zambian people. And it's because of this, I would advise us as the UPND Alliance that in this case, we don't even have to look for ways to get involved in anything violent as we go in this election. We don't need to create a situation where we seem to step on somebody's democratic rights to campaign or to do what they want. We don't need any of that because we have a great story to tell. Our commitment is to let the Zambians remember where we were yesterday under the PF. And there are Zambians who mean well, who understand that God has truly delivered us from a broken down economy and a country that seemed to have lost its direction on the international stage. So let's just tell our story. Let's not be violent. Let's not stand in the way of anybody to campaign or to express themselves. We are not going to do any of that. We would like to offer the Zambian people one of the well-organized electoral process that this country has ever had. Because the strength of unity of our country beyond August 13 is not just in the numbers of votes that we accumulate, it's in the peace that follows an election. In other words, in order to enjoy national peace, we all must work together, always agreeing on the principles of how we are going to handle the election, always checking with one another that we are all satisfied that we have a referee that is for all of us, and we have a plain ground upon which we campaign. And we promise the Zambian people we are going to provide that as the UPND Alliance, committed to democratic principles, committed to ensuring that every Zambian has a freedom to hear from all candidates without disruption. So this is my advice to my Alliance, our partners, that let's tell our story. It's an amazing miracle story of bringing back a country on track which had completely lost its direction. But let me also go now to the former PF Alliance, which is the next block as we go to the election. I've been going through social media, and I am concerned that what I'm seeing in social media is a message being prepared for this election, but a message that has nothing to do with building the economy of our country or uniting this nation. Let's be clear. If nothing changes moving forward, we see that our colleagues only have two campaign messages. The first message is going to be around the body and the death of President ECL. Nevers, what do you mean? They want to use the death and the unburied body of our former president to push their political agenda and gain the sympathy to win an election. How do you know that, you ask me? Well, go through social media. For the first time, we are seeing the spirit of the dead being exalted above those who are alive. Never in the history of our campaign have we seen a political party use t-shirts and portraits of a dead person, the name of a dead person. We're seeing the different factions of the PF fighting as to who uses the name and the face of the former president as the message of campaign. But you must understand that never in our history has this ever happened. I have not seen the UNIP using Kenneth Kaunda's face today, because President Kaunda is dead. I've not seen MMD using President Chuluba's face today, because President Chuluba is dead. I have not seen UPND using Anderson Mazoka's picture to campaign, because Anderson is dead. So what is going on here that our friends, the PF, are so stuck on using the dead? The Bible says this is what we call consulting the spirit of the dead. And for those of you that are in scripture, you know that if you front a dead person and a spirit of a dead person, you give the spirit of the dead an opportunity to hover over the nation. Now, a dead person does not remember. A dead person does not talk. A dead person doesn't care. So when you start to see traits where some Zambians begin to forget what PF did when they were in power or not what they didn't do, we are now starting to realize that maybe the spirit of the dead is taking a hold of our nation, and we need to break it. I preach a message entitled The Spirit of the Dead. I know exactly what I'm talking about. A spirit of the dead makes you vote for somebody that has never done anything. Somebody you don't know, because your face is closed. You can't see, your eyes are closed. You can't hear, your ears don't hear. You can't see because your eyes can't see, because you're dead. The spirit of the dead holds you captive, that you don't see reality. Somebody tells you the truth, you reject it, because the spirit of the dead does not allow you to see the truth, because the spirit of the dead is dead. You don't respond to truth. And I want to say to the Zambian people, especially the Christians, let's be careful about those campaigners that are using the face of the dead president and the name of the dead president to further their political campaign. It is wrong. It is spiritually dangerous, and you don't want to bring this country into that captivity of the spirit of the dead. You want to stand for president, give us your face, give us your name, give us your agenda, give us your 10-point plan. Don't use the dead to push yourself into office, because President Lungu, like President Kaunda, like President Chuluba, like President Mazoka, they are all dead. May their souls rest in peace. They will not come back to govern through you. They will not come back to govern through the former PF Alliance. They will not. They are dead. And we need to give them the honor and the respect to lay them to rest and let their legacy ring through the ages. Let their legacy outlive us by giving them the honorable respect, but never to use the name of President Edgar Lungu as a political whip to try to further our political intentions. I say this on both sides. Let's not use the dead to campaign. Let's use the living, because we are campaigning in the land of the living. That's one campaign message that I'm seeing. The second campaign message that I'm seeing is the message of tribe, where people now have lost any kind of sense of unity, and they believe that if they accuse their friend of being a tribalist, then they are making political mileage to win that election. I want to be clear that a tribe or one tribe would never develop this country. It will never, never develop this country. And it is very, very important for us to know the fact that tribe was created by God. We are different because God allowed us to be different. I was born Bemba, for instance. I was not there when that decision was being made by God and by my parents. Hakainde Hichilema was born Tonga. He has nothing to do with how he ended up being Tonga. My friends from the West, my brothers Tumbeko from Western Province had no clue that was going to come from there. Makebi Zulu or Mundubile, they didn't decide where they were going to be born. God created this rainbow for us to enjoy, not to use it as a weapon against each other. I know that there is a desire to divide our country into two political regions. What they're calling the Zambezi region and the Northeast region, and trying to make us fight against each other. Well, the good news is that we are not going to fight against each other. There will be a Ngoni here, there will be a Tonga there, there will be a Lozi there, there will be a Bemba there, and nobody's going to change that. It doesn't even matter whether you think division or you think tribe. You have no power to change that. I appeal to the Zambian people. We are a great nation. And I know somebody who said, no, HH is a tribalist. And I want to ask you a question. I think of all of us leaders, being fair, President Hakainde Hichilema becomes one of those who really has done a lot to cross tribal lines. President HH speaks Bemba. It may not be perfect, but he can be dropped in Kasama and he'll communicate in Bemba. If they threw me in the heart of Mapatizia or Choma and asked Nevers Mumba to speak Tonga, I'll be bleeding by my tongue because I can't speak it. I know some words, but most of them, I learned them as insults when I was at Hillcrest, but it won't make any sense. You go to Northwestern Province, HH will speak the language there. You go to Eastern Province, he will speak the language there. He goes, so how can a tribalist be so interested in the languages of others? I think let's be fair. If we have a political agenda, we want to win an election, let's give our manifesto. Tribe is not a good campaign message. And anybody who uses it, I appeal to the Zambian people, reject such a one. We are one people under God. If there's anything we need as a nation, it's unity. And today I've talked about this because I know how this election could end up. Now, let me close by saying this as a warning to the Zambian people. You know, politics is about emotion. Politics is about being sensational. And you are going to have different teams. I will be on the campaign trail talking about what this administration has done and what we believe we're going to do in future. These are facts. These are issues. But I also see our friends who are going to whip up the emotions of the Zambian people by creating non-issues so that people, because they know that people like sensation, so there'll be no substance, but just emotion. I want to warn every voter, don't again ever vote for emotion. When they whip you to talk about, hey, President Edgar Lungu has not been buried, it's because of this one, that's why he's not buried. And then you get angry and say, then I'll vote against that person because they have accused him of not burying President Edgar Lungu. Don't go that direction. Because even if they win that argument or lose that argument, it doesn't improve the economy of our country. So today I decided to talk about this because very soon you are going to hear these two things about the unburied body of President ECL or the tribal issue. And when you hear these things, please know that that is not your candidate to vote for.